Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight is Tuesday Draw Along. I'm going to walk you step by step of how to create this little whimsical Valentine's cupid little pig. Something about a pig that makes you smile every time. So I'm going to walk you step by step of how to draw it, and then at the end I'll show you a simple little watercolor technique to be able to color it in. But simply, once you have it drawn, you can color it in any way you want to, be acrylic paint, colored pencils, whatever your favorite art medium is, even color crayons. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and start. If you'll notice my paper, I have it gridded off this way, and that just allows me to help show you how big and small I'm making things. So if you want to grid your paper off, a line down the middle this way and a line across, that'll just be a helpful way to set up your paper. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here. We're going to make a little picture of me. Let's do a little picture of me and a big picture of this little piggy. All right, so we're going to do it this way. I'll keep this here so you can have a reference. And I'm going live tonight and streaming live in a couple different groups tonight. I'm live in Facebook and I'm live on YouTube. So if you see some names pop up or me answering a few people questions and you don't see their name, it's because we're live in two different locations. Hello, my sweet friend Carrie. It sounds like you have quite the storm going on in your part of the country. Well, let's go ahead and hello, Gloria. Thanks for popping on, ladies. It looks like people are watching from Facebook tonight. If you're watching from Facebook, go ahead. If you wouldn't mind sharing me out, that would be so grateful. And if you're watching from YouTube, if you could give me a thumbs up, YouTube really likes that. And if you want to be extra special, you can always leave a comment. They like that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this little picture here. Now to draw the little piggy, I'm going to show you that it's basically two circles is how we're going to build it. And it looks super cute when their noses are turned up. Hello, hello. Thanks for popping on. So let's go ahead and we're going to draw this little back circle. So if we look here on my line that comes across, half of my circle is above, half of my circle is below. This is a 6x6 paper. So I'm going to draw a circle that comes halfway up and halfway down. That's where I'm going to start there. That's what I'm going for anyway. Often when I do this motion, I have to do a sketchy motion with my hand because circles they can be challenging. And I don't necessarily get them right the very first time I do it. So I just warm my hand up by making a sketchy line. Now you can tell I did not get half of my circle down and half of my circle up. I need to make this one a little higher and maybe raise this one up a little bit. I was talking and not paying attention. Okay, redo. That's why we have erasers. We can change it easy enough. Okay, so I want half of looking more like it's even. Okay, see if I do better this time. Okay, I think I did better this time. It doesn't have to be exact, but you can kind of shoot for that if you want to. I'm still a little low down here, a little short up there. Hello, Mary. Thanks for coming on. Hi, Donna. Thanks, ladies, for popping on. Now let's go ahead and pop this next one in, and the next circle is going to be right here. We kind of look at it that way. So it's a little smaller, but we're going to cozy up right next to that circle that we just did. This is where we're going to build our head. So I'm going to come up. I'm going to be a little taller than this one here because I want that snout to be coming up. That kind of gives her just the cutest, or him, the cutest little look. Okay, so I've got my two circles on. It kind of looks like a sideways snowman, but that's how we're going to build our pig. So let's take a look at how we're going to connect our circles. So here's my first shape. I'm going to connect this with my back. So here we're going to draw a line here. So we're going to come, this is going to be the top of the head. We're going to scoop down just a little bit, touch that rounded back, and now all of a sudden we have his little back connected. Let's go ahead now and connect this part to the front. So this is where we're dropping down here to connect our next little line. We're going to come across this way and up into our snout. So here we're going to come across the rumpus. We're going down, we're connecting the belly. So we're going to go a little lower here. He's a little thicker. And then we're going to come up to the top. And then we're going to get to the top here, touch my circle. And then I'm going to come out just a little ways to make that upward snout. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to make that snout come right up there. Okay, so now we have the bones and the belly. You just figured out how to get YouTube on TV. I was watching you replace earlier. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. So let's go ahead and erase this now because we no longer need these circles. We have all the inside built. and we're going to see what we end up with. Okay, so we're just going to do that. All right, so we have that part done. Let's go ahead and use my little handy dandy vacuum. These are super handy if you like to draw, and I'm a little heavy handed, so, and plus I have to draw a little darker to be able to get you to see what I'm doing. I do use this polymer eraser to erase my things. Okay, so we have our little shape like that. Let's go ahead and throw his nose in. So let's take a look at the nose shape. It's a heart right here. And it's going to be, the tip of my heart is going to be at this part. We're going to be swooping down a little bit there. So let's go ahead and make my heart. So I'm going to start here. Let's do that little sideways heart. That's his nose. Cute. Now I can take a look at this line. Do I need to make it go into my heart a little bit more? I think I'm going to come up here just a little bit more and touch. Okay, so we have that part done. We have his nose done. He's going to have a little nose holes this way. They're like little comma marks is what they look like. Let's give this piggy a little open mouth. It was like you were in my living room. Oh, how nice. I'm glad. Let's take a look at his mouth. Now, if you look at this way, it's kind of like a check mark, a little bit of a check mark here with a little bit of a cheek. I'm going to draw it so it's an open mouth this time. So we're going to have a little V here and then come down. So let's carry on with that check mark. So I'm going to come down a little ways. This would be that part of his snout. And then we're going to come in and then just kind of a rounded little check mark like that. And then we're going to make a little V here and then we're going to erase it. So now all of a sudden our little piggy has an open mouth and we're going to give him a little cheek line there. That just adds a little bit of happiness to my little pig. Let's put his little eye in. So if we take a look, pigs have tiny eyes, and real pigs have very tiny eyes. So I'm just going to put a little sideways oval here and create a little dark mark there at the end. So I'm going to just look right here. Piggy's eyes are small, so I'm going to do that little sideways oval. I'll pop in a dark mark there and make sure I leave a catch light because that always brings them to life. Now let's add these ears. So let's take a look. This is where my bump is. So this ear over here is going to be sitting back farther because it's the one that's in the front. This ear right here is going to be, it's going to be skinnier because this one we're seeing the full ear on the left-hand side. Now the way I drew this one, it was right here where my line is. But you look at your pig to see what makes sense. If this line is too far back to put your, or too close, then you can adjust your ears. But I drew it right here next to my line. It's a full, like a triangle shape is what this is. And then the back one, it's got a straight back to it. And then it comes over and then curls around. This part of the body is going to be in front of that ear. So let's go ahead and start drawing those. So I'm going to start with my triangle shape. I gave them pretty good size ears. They were kind of cute. That one's going to go there. I'm going to erase this line so I can open that up. And now this one, I'm going to start here. I'm going to make it go this direction. So I'm going to come up, kind of give it a little bit of a point. And this one's going to be narrower. And then it's going to be like that because we're just seeing the side of our ear. We're not, and I should make this shorter. I gotta need to pay attention. So let's do this one shorter. That will give it more of like a direction of that ear is behind. So I'm still gonna see this part of his body. Oh my gosh, cute as can be, cute as can be. Let's put a little, pop in a little piggy tail. So our little piggy tail is just another little point. It goes all the way into a single line here. So we're just gonna start it here. If you think of this being kind of a little sideways triangle mark as well. So I'm gonna start here. Now you take a look, does your rump look rumpy enough? Does it got a big enough rump? You want kind of a nice little round rump on that piggy. And I'm going to come up towards the top. It wouldn't be down here. My pigtail wouldn't be here. It's going to be more at the top of my pig. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to make that little triangle, come around, and then I'm going to come up, go into a single line, and then make a little pig curl like that. Make this a little bit more rounded so it doesn't look. Now I erase that line there. So then all of a sudden my pigtail is a part of my pig body. It's no longer separated. So we got his little pigtail on there. Let's pop in some legs. Now he's got to have some pretty good porker legs. And if you look at, these are that upside down triangle shape. It's got where the bottom is definitely smaller, and this is a lot more wider. So it's got a nice little porky leg to it, and a little tiny detail that you can add if you would like to. Do you see how the leg has just a little bit of a kick to my right here? And this is a shape like this. So it's kind of like an upside down pop bottle. That might be another way to explain it, where it's going to be nice and rounded here. It's got a little bit of a kick. It's coming down. This line isn't here. That's the extra line. And then this one is going to be behind him. So I'm going to do just a half of that pop bottle. It's going to kick out, but I do have just the tiniest bit of a V here. So it's got a little bit of separation. Again, my feet are getting pretty small. So if you look, I was started in that line area here. I'm going to have part of my pop bottle on this side and the other one on there. So I'm going to come around, make him nice and chubby legs. Then it's going to come into that pop bottle. He's not going to have tall legs. Pigs don't have very long legs. There we got that little narrow part for the toe. Then it's going to come up. We're going to give it a little bit of a curve now. In, and then that's when I gave that little bit of a kick out the other direction, just to give it a little bit more dimension. Now let's erase whatever might be inside of our little pig. Let's come over here and do that half leg. So we're going to come in. We're going to start here. Now we're going to come in. This leg might be ever so shorter than the one you just did. So I'm going to curve around. Here's my pop bottle. And then I'm going to come back out. And I'm going to be just a little bit shorter. Now I have that little V I want to connect right there. So now by doing that, I have one leg in front, one leg in back. Cute little legs. I think I might have to make my little guy even rounder. Okay, got to have those nice big porky legs. All right, let's do the back one here. Now the back one's got, she's got a little, or he's got a little bit of a kick to it. Can you see how it starts here in the back? So to have the little kick up leg, we're going to be starting a little bit farther back. This has got that hook in it, and this here has got another hook in it, and it's going narrower as I come in. So this still is the widest part. Gonna kick around, and then you're gonna go in gradually to a small little foot. So we're gonna start here. This will be back here. So I'm gonna come in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and make that curve. Gonna start kicking it in or around for his little foot. Now it's gonna come up. We got just a little bit of a foot here. Now we're going to come back, and this is where we're going to kind of make a knee. If you think of it that way, it's the knee part. And then it's going to come around. Okay, erase that. Make sure your leg is still nice and chubby, because we still want that pig to have that little chubbiness to him. Now let's put the other leg in, the one that he's actually standing on. Again, it's that upside down pop bottle shape, which is going to match this one. So when you do this leg, you just want to make sure that these are even across when you draw them. So one leg isn't awfully longer than the other one. Oh, hi Terry, thanks for coming on. Hi Kellyanne, thanks for popping in tonight, ladies. So let's go ahead. I'm just gonna make a little invisible line over here, like just lightly, so I know where that foot is. I have an idea. That's pretty good. All right, let's start with my leg back here. It's gotta be back here by the other one. We're gonna make that pop bottle shape, coming in pretty quick. Then we're going to come over here, got to bring it in, and then down. Cute. He's got the cute, chubby little legs. I tell you what, chubby, chubby. I think I have to make this a little taller. He didn't have any part of the bottom of his legs. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to go. Now you can add a little bit of a toe too if you want to. You know how pigs have just that little bit of a toe line? You could make a little bit of a toe line if you want to. Just add a little line there. And then this one would be over here. So you can add a little divided toe if you want to add just that little bit of whimsical nature to it. Thanks very much for sprinkling. I so appreciate that. Let's go ahead and give this guy some wings. So to do the wings, to make him that cheruby guy, he's going to have a set of wings here. It's going to start here back by his ear. This is the one that's going to be behind. This one will be in front. So this one's going to be slightly narrower, and you're not probably going to see the whole wings the way I drew them. This one, you're going to see the whole wing, and it's going to attach to his back. So I'm going to start with the one that you can see the whole wing. So I'm going to start here, about right here, a little ways back from my ears. And I'm going to come up at a sideways, drawing it sideways angle, so not straight up. And this is going to be the biggest wing, so I'm going to come up, back. That's going to be my biggest loop. I'm going to come back down, draw it. So these can be just as whimsical as whatever, whatever you feel like. Now this wing has got to come into his body. So it's got to come in and be like on part of his body. So you want it to be connected to his body. So now let's do the back one. So that's going to start on his back. We're going to be coming up the same angle. And then when we get about this far, we're going to start doing that full loop. We want to see at least one usually. And then we're going to do another one. And then you're probably going to just go like, it's going to just disappear behind that other wing. Okay, so take a look. And then that's going to stop right at his back line. So you're going to see the back line right there. Okay, he's got his wings on. He's flying. How cute. Hello, Carol. Thanks for coming in tonight. Let's go ahead and put his little belt on. So to hold his little, I forget what these are called, the little arrow pouch things. I forget, there's a name for it. When you draw this, you're going to be making your arch come like this. So it's going to be a C motion. It's going to come around. You're going to, this end here, when you end, it's going to be slightly narrower than what this is up here. And then you're just going to copy your C shape all the way around to his tummy. It's going to be just a little lower than his belly. So it looks like it's got a little bit of depth to it, or not depth, but it's actually different than the same size as his belly and his back. So let's go ahead and do those. So I'm going to start up here by his wing, or actually by behind his ear. Go next to my wing, and I'm going to go ahead and curve this around where it makes sense. Kind of take a look at your pig. Where does it make sense to put it? Every time you do them, they're all going to be different. Yours is going to look different than mine. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and double my line. So I'm wider here, and I'm getting ever so slightly narrower. And I'm going to make it just a tiny bit different. Okay, I might have to change up. Now this looks different than the first one, but that's okay. So we have his little belt that goes around him. Let's go ahead and put this little arrow pouch in. And this is simply a sawed off triangle shape. So there is no point on here. It comes up and it's got a flat bottom here, and then we'll stick our arrows in. So take a look at your little piggy. You want to make sure that you got room to stick some arrows in there. And I'm just going to start with my top line first at an angle. That. Then I'm going to come down. This is going to be narrower here and wider at this end. So now I'm going to go the other direction because I'm making a triangle. If this works easier to turn your paper so you can have a better idea of what direction you need to draw them, turn your paper so you're looking at it this way instead of drawing it sideways. So whatever might work for you. I'm going to go ahead and erase that in the middle because we no longer need that. Let's go ahead and stick some arrows in there, and arrows are pretty easy to do. You're going to take a look here. If you think about it, if you were drawing it, you would be starting at the bottom. You don't have to draw this line, but if it helps you to get your arrows in there correctly, you can. And then you line your arrows up like that. So that's just helping me line the tops of my arrows up. Now I can erase that, and I have my space ready where I'm going to do. So an arrow, the top part is going to be down. So you're going to create a V first. Each one of these gets a V. That's going to be the top part of where your feathers are. Now you're going to come straight down on each side, following your arrow. Now you might end up bumping in where one is in the front and one is in the back, and that's okay. So you're going to come down, and then when you get down to the bottom, you're going to make a point this direction. So a V, and now it's a point. Now I'm not going to see the bottom of that there because it tucks in, and I might not even see the bottom of this one. Okay, so we've got all my arrows drawn. These will have little lines in it ever so often just to indicate that there's feathers from my center line. And there his little his little areas are done. Now you can draw this two different ways. If it looks like your pig is flying and he's up in the air, you don't have to do a ground. You could do where it's just the hearts that go all the way around, and maybe some swirls or something like that is what you could add. But mine kind of looked like he was, definitely this one looked like he was standing, so I left it there. But this guy, he kind of looks like he really is flying. So I could actually put, so like he's not connected to the ground so much here. It doesn't look like it, just the way I drew his feet this time and the way his little head is going. He is actually so cute. So I could actually do hearts all the way around, and maybe a cloud would be cute. Some clouds. If you added some clouds, that would indicate that he's in the sky. Matter of fact, maybe I will do that this time. I'll add some clouds. So with clouds, you usually do some bumps like that. But then at the bottom, try to make them flat and like make them go off to the side a little bit. And that will just be a little bit more cloud-ish like, instead of just doing all the way around like a cotton ball. If you do them that way, they look, just gives them a little bit more cloudish look, I guess is what I want to say. So we're going to do it round like that. Okay, so by putting the clouds in, he really does look like he's flying in the sky. But if yours needs to look like it's standing on the ground, you could just easily put a little bit of a line there. Hello, Facebook user. I'm streaming in tonight with StreamYard. So in order to see your name, you'll have to allow StreamYard to do that. And you could just approve that easily on your end. And I'm going to do a little inside of his ear here because he's got his inside. I might curve this one a little bit. Just curve it ever so slightly. Oh my gosh. How's your pigs turning out, everyone? Hopefully you are happy with your little pigs. Now I'm just going to go ahead and float some hearts in here. Well, we got to do some words. So let's put some words in here. I wrote hogs and kisses, and I did it down here because I had room. So you look at your drawing and decide, do you have room? I'm just going to use freehand, a stylized look. Your pig is cute. Oh, I'm glad. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how I did the stylized writing. So if we take a look, we're going to be starting down, looping up, and then a jog up. So let's start here. And I think I spelled everything right tonight. All my spell checkers who were watching. Here we go, up and down. So it's going to start here, up and down. And then we're going to come up this way, give it a jog down. Now this O is connected, so I'm going to come up just like we used to do in cursive writing. And then we're going to come around, drop my circle spot here. And then I'm just going to keep on following kind of the direction of my body. I'm going to come down, and then I disconnected my S. I didn't keep it connected. So I'm going to come up, but I'm going to still give it a swirl and then come around. Cute. Hogs. And then this one always, the and is one that I always have to think about a little bit about the direction. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do like an awareness loop, kind of, where you're going to start this way, but then your awareness loop has got a little bit more of a chubby belly on this side. If it was an awareness, truly an awareness loop, this one would match the same one, but we're going to give it a chubby belly this direction, and then swoop up and curve around, and there's our and sign. So now I'm going to print kisses. So what makes this type of handwriting look good is if you can switch up the fonts, or switch up, like have some capitals with some small, and mix it up. And then your eye will be pleased with what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be exact. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come close to this sign, so it looks like it's still kind of connected and not disconnected. So I'm doing an uppercase K, lowercase I, and then I'm going to jump up high with this S and fill this space a little bit. Then I'm going to make it another S, but I'm going to make it smaller and fill my next space. Still trying to keep going around here. And then my E, I'm going to come across first, jump up, not all the way back, and then kick it around. Now I'm going to fill this space with my next S, whatever I might have. And I'm going to come around and fill that space. Okay, hogs and kisses. Now I can go ahead and throw in some hearts wherever I might need to put some hearts. So I'm going to come here and put them different directions so they're not all lined up the same way, and that will make your picture have just kind of a fun, whimsical look to it. So if you change the direction of your hearts so they're not the same, You can also change the sizes so they're not all the same. Our hand often, when we do, just instinctively, it wants to make patterns where we don't necessarily want them. So I'm going to go ahead and put maybe just another one down here, and I will change their way. Okay, so this little pig is flying, and the clouds really help make it look like it's flying. All right, let's go ahead and do some watercolor. I'll do a little bit of ink work at the end when I'm finished. I'll come in and just do a little bit of ink work on there. For those who might be new to watercolor, if you're starting with watercolor and you want to just start with, I would say spend a little bit on your paper, which I didn't show it to you this time. This is the watercolor paper I use. Is the Canson brand. It's 140 pounds. It's still considered a student grade watercolor paper, so it's pretty reasonably priced, but you'll just get a nice product. A lot of times we struggle with the papers that we have. It just doesn't hold enough water, and we struggle with it. So if you spend just a tiny bit more on your paper, you're going to get a better result. And then just buy the watercolor that you can afford, because watercolor is just like any other paint. There's all the different grades. So this one here, this set is very inexpensive, but it still has 50 colors. So when you bring it out, you got 50 colors to paint with. And when you start with a set like this, they're in the cake pans. They're already there. This particular set, you cannot buy it in the tubes to refill it. So once it's done, that color, then it's done, would be the only downside. But you take a little spray bottle, you wet your colors, like when you start to draw, you could wet your colors, and then that's just going to help get them ready for you to be able to do the watercolor. Now tonight I am using a watercolor brush, but I'm using the Velvet Touch, the Princeton Velvet Touch brush. This is a number 6 round. Watercolor brushes have just a tiny bit of a belly on them. They've got a good point on it, this round brush does. It's got a great spring that's going to come right back. Whoops, I spurted myself with water. It's got a great spring. It's going to come back, and that's what you want with a nice round brush to be able to do these small drawings. So that's the one I'm going to use. I probably when I get to the background, I'll use a 10. But these little brushes will last you a long time, and you'll get a lot of good use out of them. I think I priced them just recently, and it was like $7 a brush. They're just a synthetic brush, so they're not like a natural hair brush, super expensive. Now with watercolor, if you're new to watercolor, you always start light and then work your way dark. Watercolor is rather, and I've heard it explained this way before, it's kind of like painting the shadows is what you're doing. So the first layers are going to be your highlights. Now tonight I am going to be starting with a peach, this color here. So I'm going to be starting with a peach. A color card is another great idea when you first get your set, is to swatch it, because the colors in the pan dry like this look so different than they're going to look on your paper. Okay, and those who are interested in using colored pencils, you can go ahead and start just doing them in colored pencils. You could paint this in acrylic paint. Once you have it drawn, it doesn't really matter. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking my paint from my palette. I've got this little puddle kind of going here and here, and I'm taking it and then I'm just bringing it over to this ceramic little palette that I have. And this color here, I'm mixing to about tea consistency is usually the first layer. You'll often hear watercolorists refer to tea consistency or milk consistency, but your first layers are usually tea consistency. Now I'm going to go ahead. Oh, you know what? I should have probably erased. I'm going to use a kneaded eraser. Back the train up just a little bit. I can lighten this a little bit. If you get a kneaded, like a gum eraser, I can go over this and lighten some of my pencil mark. I don't have to keep it that dark, because you've seen how I drew it, and I can come in and lighten this up a little bit so I don't have such strong lines. The more you rub on your watercolor paper, you're going to change the texture of your paper. So you don't want to spend a ton of time going in and erasing, because it will make it smoother. It's going to change the texture of your paper. Is the one thing about like over erasing. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do some peach here. I'm going to try to leave some white of my paper. I want to see some of my white of my paper. I don't want to have puddles at this stage. So I'm getting my paper wet, but I'm not creating puddles. And I'm leaving some of the white of my paper showing through. That's kind of an unusual thing for watercolor, is that it's okay and it's actually preferred to have a little bit of your bright whites showing, because you can't bring back those whites. Once you put color on with watercolor, they're gone. The only way you can bring white back in is if you were to use like a uni ball pen or a little bit of acrylic or even gouache. That would help bring it back too. So I'm just going to start layering in some of this color. Okay, and now that my paper is wet, I'm going to take that same color and I'm going to mix it to milk consistency. So I've got a little bit of thicker color in here now to about milk. Now I'm going to come in, and I know that this pig would be darker back here. So I'm going to pop in some of that color a little bit darker. And I'm not covering up everything I just put on, but I want to kind of add like, okay, I know this would be a shadow here. This would be a shadow underneath here. This leg is going to be brighter, but I can darken it just a tiny bit. I know this leg underneath is really going to be dark because it's the behind everything. I can add a shadow here because I know it would be in the dark. Right here next to this little belt would be a shadow. Underneath this little arrow quiver, I think that's what it's called. I think I might have got it right. I'm going to put some here and around next to my belt here because that would be a shadow. And again, I can darken up his leg just a little bit, but that's still going to be my lightest leg. And then I'm going to come in here. This would be pretty much darker. I would have darkness here because this would be to make it look going around. I'm going to make it like a milk consistency. I'm going to add just another dark layer here to give it a division. Come up here and give it a darker layer. We better do something with those ears. These are going to be light because they're on the very top. Put that on there. Okay, so now my little piggy is pretty wet. I'm going to pick up some pink. So I'm going to still a light pink. So I'm going to choose a light pink in my set. That's about right here. This one I'm going to be doing kind of maybe milk, about milk maybe. And I'm going to pop some of this pink in. Now this color is wet, so it's going to do a little bit of magic, watercolor magic. My colors are going to flow together now because watercolor always travels where the water is. So I'm going to come in here and lay just a little bit of the pink, but it shouldn't stay. I don't want harsh lines. I'm just going to pop this color in. Now I know that this would be darker here. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm not looking to cover up everything I got on there. Okay, adding that one on there. This one's going to be darker. Now I'm going to quickly rinse my brush here. My paper's starting to dry. I have clear water on here. And I'm going to touch this a little bit more, but I'm not trying to create puddles on there because if I get puddles, I'm going to have like those blooming marks on there. Blooms are pretty, but you don't always want them. But those happen if your paper is too wet. Let's go ahead and lay some of that pink on this side. It's going to be darker here. My paper's starting to dry over here already. I'm leaving kind of a little bit of a white spot around his eye. I'm going to add some of that pink. Oh, I got that fuzzy on there again. The last couple times I've been having issues with fuzzies. Okay. All right, now I'm going to rinse my brush out. I'm going to tap it on my paper towel, take some of my water out, and I'm going to pull that color in. So I want to push and pull because I don't want hard lines. And I'm softening that color. My paper was starting to dry. This is a student grade paper, so I'm not going to have the same open time as I would with like 100% cotton paper. When you work on 100% cotton paper, you're going to have a different complete look. All right, now this is still pretty wet. I'm going to pick up another shade of pink. So I'm going to go darker. And this is where the beauty of watercolor comes in. You're going to be putting layers on. They're going to be melting together. So you can see how much darker this one is. This is how dark this one is. That was the lightest pink. Okay, so I'm going to come in. I'm going to tap just a little bit of that dark. My paper is still pretty wet over there. And I'm going to tap that color along my edge and where I think my shadow would be, right there for sure. On the back of this little leg is going to be darker. Underneath here, next to my belt, and over here. Now you can see how your watercolor is blending together. Is it blending? Is it not? You might have to add a little water the next time around. So we're going to come here and I'm going to add just a little bit more dark here. under here. This part of the paper is starting to get dry again. Okay, and we're going to come this direction. This was where there would be a little bit more dark over here. Now my goal is not to have lines when I get done, so I might have to finesse it a little bit. Again, because this is just a student grade paper. It's not a high quality type of cotton paper. Now you can see I have a lot of lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse my brush out. I've just got clear water in here. I'm going to give it a tap. It's not a dripping wet brush at all. And I'm going to add a little bit more color out here, water, and I'm going to push and pull that color and soften those lines so I don't end up with these bands of color on my piggy. I'm going to come here too and do a little bit more pushing and pulling and softening up that color. Okay, if you take a little extra time and practice these, this is how what's going to change the difference in your quality of watercolor, is practicing these techniques, the pushing and the pulling of the color. Okay, here we go. It takes a little bit of time to do it, but that's where you find the beauty is in your watercolors, is by adding the layers, taking the time to do the little bit of pushing and pulling. I'm going to come up here and add a little bit of pink on the back side of his ear. Step back and take a look. My view is so different when I look at and see it versus because I'm off to the side. So now I have a little bit softer look to my pig. All right. You can decide if you want that brighter white, or you might want to come in, take a little bit of pink. I'm going to layer and just kind of soften that a little bit. Now I need to work on his nose a little bit. I'm going to use that bright pink first that I used over here. I don't have a lot of water in it. It's a little bit thicker. I'm going to tap it on my brush so I don't get too much color. And I'm going to come into that nose and add a little bit of pink. I'm going to add that same color here too, just to darken it a little bit. It's turning out so cute. Now I'm going to let that dry. I will put some of the darker pink on there as an accent to there. Let's work a little bit on his wings. I'm going to take gray. I have a gray in my set. It's kind of just a nice soft gray. I'm going to be mixing to this probably even thinner than tea consistency. I want a lot of water in here because I'm not looking for a really strong color. Hi Lena, thanks for coming on tonight. We're going to got a little color in here. So let's go ahead and blush some of this gray on. Now watercolor is going to dry lighter. As it dries, it's going to go lighter. So it might seem a little dark to you now, but it probably most likely is going to dry lighter. But I'm going to pop that in there because that'll just give my wings a little bit of color. Now let's work on that band. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll give that just a chance to dry just a tiny bit because my piggy is pretty wet. If I go into the band, because watercolor always wants to travel where the water is, if I start doing that band or even this quiver pouch where the arrows are in, a lot of that color is going to spread out into my pig, and I don't want that to happen. I want that pig to stay these colors, and I want to add a few more other colors. So I'm going to work a little bit on my hearts. So I'm going to take some of the colors that I used. Let's see, we've got some of that pink, the darker pink. This is the darker pink. You could plop in some of the lighter pink. I need to add a little bit more of that color here on my ears, just a tiny bit. Add a shadow. There we go. You could take that color. Let's see. I used this color for his belt, so it's kind of a brighter color. And then I popped over here and used this like magenta-y color for the quiver, kind of a reddish magenta color. So I'm going to take those two colors and use those in my hearts as well. So I'm going to need to find them though because they look so different in here, and I'll show you. This is what this is the purple and magenta color. And just to give you an idea of what they look like in the pan versus on the paper, this is the color on the paper, but this is the color in the pan. So it's really hard to tell. So that's why it's a great idea to do those little little swatches and have them on your paper so you can really kind of tell and find your color. Now these little hearts don't need a lot of water. It's mostly paint. And then you can pop it in there and just put that in. That'll give them a chance to dry too. So normally I kind of go around my picture, so I have some of that there. I'm going to pop up here and put another one here. Okay. And then that bright magenta color, that is over here, I believe. Yeah. Thank goodness I've got this swatch because I wouldn't know where to look for those colors. Okay, so that's that one. And let's see, I'm going to use, I think I can go ahead and use this now. So I'm going to take some of this magenta color and I'm going to put it up here in my palette. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the quiver that color. I'm going to try to lead a little bit of bright highlight in here, right kind of off to the center, more towards the top, just to bring some, a little bit of life to this and a sparkle. So I'm not going to try to cover everything in this color. Okay, there we go. Cute. I'm going to let that dry. Let's go ahead and use that other color for here. I'm kind of going a little fast with this, but we'll just have to roll with it. There we go. And I'm going to come here too. This doesn't have a lot of water in it when I'm doing this little area because I don't want it to float everywhere. So I really want to control the water. So I'm not going to have a lot of water in there. You might even want to tap your brush just to get some of the moisture off. You love the colors? Oh, and I love them too. Let's come here and then we're going to come around his belly. Okay, cute. Now, oh, you know what I forgot to do too is I'm going to use that same gray that I used on his wings. I'm going to use that same color for the arrow tops. And I'm just going to come in and pop a little gray into these areas. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. Now I'm missing this spot here in between the pig, and I should probably fill that in because it doesn't look like there's anything there. It's just too much white paper. So I'm just going to come in with a very dry brush. They're not going to have a lot of pigment on there. And I'm going to tap a little bit of that pink into my little pig just to cover up those spots so it looks like it's connected instead of being just on separated by itself. This one here, let's see, let's do a little bit of, let's do that color again. Now we have to choose a cloud color since I did clouds on this little guy. Let's see, I'm going to use this kind of a bluish greenish color here. Usually when you do clouds, you want them to be slightly different color than what your other colors would be. I'm going to take that out and I'm just going to pop that cloud color in. That'll be different than my sky. And they're going to look really cute up there. It does make him feel like he's flying by adding those little clouds in there. Okay, sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, and I think I'm done with all of my watercolor. Oh, let's do a little bit more dark on his nose. Give this a tap. I don't want a lot of water on there. And I'm going to give it just a dark shadow. Choose a side. I'm going to choose the side down here. Okay, cute. All right, let's do a little pen work. So I'm not going to do a ton. When I do pen work with my watercolors, I always like to use the Micron pens because it's an archival ink. They should stay put. There shouldn't be a lot of running with this color. And I'm going to use the 01 tonight because I just want a really fine line on here. It's not a lot. It's a nice fine line. And I'm waiting for these clouds and things to dry before I pop my background in. So I'm just going to come here and do my little pig work on here. Now these should stay put, but often on these small drawings, before I should say about that too. Now when I'm drawing this line, I'm putting in my eye, but I'm going to try to leave just a tiny bit of catch light in that dark area. Try to leave it so there's a little bit of white in there. Sometimes you miss it. You can always try to go back in with a Uniball pen and add it in if you want to, but that's where the life comes. That's where they come to life, is by adding that on there. Now I'm going to come in here and lightly do, and you could do this in sketching motion too. It doesn't have to be perfect where your lines aren't totally matched up right. Put a little bit there. Now I'm going to add a few little piggy lines on his nose. So those are the ones that come across just to give him a little bit of a pig look. Here. That open mouth. when you do this, you don't have to feel like you have to stay 100% true to the lines that you sketched with your pencil. You can add a little bit more character and movement to your line work, which is what I'm kind of doing here by doubling up in some places on my lines. You can keep it exact if you like that look, you can. I'm just doing a very much a sketch look to this and loosening my line work up because that's the style I like. Add some little bit of character to it. This little marker is starting to wear out. My tip is not exactly pointed anymore. Okay, and then let's come down here and add a few more lines to this, and that's going to just kind of liven my wings up and give them some movement. And I'm going to come in here too and add some line work. Cute. Let's go ahead and copy these words, and I'm going to use my one. This might still be an area I need to erase a little bit more so you don't see my pencil marks here. But I will need to let this ink just dry just a tiny bit before I do that, or I'll smear my ink. It does take a little bit of time, not too long, but it does take a little bit. If you go in too early, it's going to smear. And what I do sometimes to push it a little bit more is I will go ahead and hit it with a little bit of heat to dry it, which is what I'll probably do. Oh, he is so cute. Now I need to also decide where. He's a cute pig, you right? He is. I'm gonna have to go ahead and decide where I want to sign my name on here tonight too. Now you can leave, I'm just gonna leave the pencil mark for my clouds. You might want to come in and do a little bit more hand sketching in there just to darken them up just a tiny bit. You can come in that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase whatever might be leftover pencil here for my lettering, just to clean that area up just a little bit more so my lettering looks a little bit more exact. Okay, let's go ahead and lay the background in. So for the background, I'm going to switch to my number 10, a little bit bigger. I'm going to take that peach color that I originally started with the pig, and I'm going to make the majority of that sky that color. So I'm going to come in. I like a light background with my work, so I'm going to go thin, like tea consistency. And I'm going to have that color all done up over here. And then for this one, I'm going to be going back and forth and then going down my picture. So I'm going to start in. I'm not going to spend a lot of time next to things because watercolor isn't permanent. If I go in there and rub too hard on those lines, especially at this stage, because it really hasn't had that much time to dry, I could rub my color out. My colors could run into each other if I put too much water on here. I don't mind having some open areas on my backgrounds. It's kind of that whimsical look. I can stop here because I have that wing there, so it's not going to be too obvious by stopping there. And I like to just have a real open, I change the direction of my hand so it has a little bit more whimsical nature to it. I'm okay with seeing my brush strokes. I'm not too concerned about that because it's just the style I do. Boop, boop, there we go. I don't want puddles though. If I get puddles sitting in there, I'm going to end up with a lot of those bloom looks, and I'm not looking for that. So I kind of want more of an even shine where I don't have a ton of puddles. Okay, I'm going to call him done. I think he's super cute. You have to decide where you want to sign it. And maybe I will just sign it at the bottom tonight. Maybe I'll just sign it there. And I like signing in pencil. Okay, and there he is done. I think he is super cute, and how fun is he? He would be great framed. He would be so fun in a frame and just sitting on a little spot where you look at and that you see every day, because I think he's absolutely darling. If you do one on my page on Painting Crafty in my Facebook page, you will see the post that kind of is advertising or talking about tonight's draw along, and you can put your picture in there. I love to share everyone's work because everyone's artwork looks different. We all have different hands, and I always say it doesn't have to look like mine to be good. there's many different ways to draw things, to paint things, and I know there's different ones here who use different art materials and make it yours, but you inspire other people to try. And that's a blessing to so many. If you share yours, then we can pass it on and we can get ideas from every different people and add those into our own drawings. For those who might be new to my page, I also like to point this out too. I do have a Ko-fi page, which is like a Patreon page. And there you can become a sketchbook member. And the sketchbook members, they get to get a line drawing of this, and I just send it to them. They get 2 different sizes. And then they also get a print of my original that they can print off. It's a digital one that they can print off if they would like. And they can use it any way that they can want to for their personal use. But they'll get one of those too. So it's very reasonably priced. You can pop over there. It's a great way to just support my page. I love my sketchbook members, and I so appreciate them coming over and supporting my page. Well, that is it for now. On Thursday, I will be back, and it will be YouTube Thursday. It will only be on YouTube, so you can find me at Painting Crafty on YouTube, and we'll be going live there on Thursday night at 6 o'clock Central. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me. You have a good night, and hopefully you'll come back and see me on Thursday. Now I got to find that end button, and it always takes a little bit of time.